Good afternoon. I want to call to order today's meeting of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Would Secretary please call the roll?
Senator Daly. Here. Senator Canizaro. Senator Krasner. Here. Senator Steinbeck. Here. Chair Orenthal.
Present. Secretary, please mark the majority leader present when she arrives or absent excused if she is unable to attend today. We do have a quorum. I'd like to provide a few general housekeeping reminders. I'd ask everyone to please silence their electronic devices. If someone wishes to testify either on a bill, for, against, or neutral, or during public comment, we ask everyone to please sign in at the table by the door if you're here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Please provide a business card, if any, to our committee secretary. For those joining us online, please be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to minimize any background noise. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name and affiliation, if any, for the record. Then, we'd ask that you turn the microphone off each time you finish speaking. If you're going to be giving paper copies of any handouts, we'd ask for 20 copies for members of the public here in person in Carson City or in Las Vegas. If you have electronic copies, we do ask that they be submitted in PDF format to our committee manager 24 hours in advance of the committee meeting. Often we deal with contentious issues in our committee and many committees. We do expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we don't agree with someone else's position. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. As a reminder, we may also take agenda items out of order. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes per speaker, and we also are limiting comments for, against, and neutral on bills to 2 minutes per speaker. With that, I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 74. I'm very fortunate today. Pardon me one sec, we might need a little technical help here, but we are very fortunate today. We've got our Secretary of State, Cisco Aguilar, and our Deputy Secretary for Elections, Mark Volashin, here in Carson City. And we'll just be at ease for a sec while we try to get our technical thing working here. Looks like they're up. Good afternoon, Secretary of State and Deputy Secretary. Thank you for joining us to present Senate Bill 74. Appreciate you being here. Please begin whenever you'd like.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenthal, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Cisco Aguilar, Secretary of State. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm joined by Chief Deputy Gabriel's in another committee, my apologies. Deputy for Elections, Mark Volashin. We are happy today to provide you an overview of Senate Bill 74 and then take your questions. Before we get to the bill, it is important to get on the record exactly what we're trying to do here and why this bill was drafted. Title 24 is the collective name for 19 chapters of statute, each covering the topics listed on this slide. It provides information for candidates and PACs about what they need to do and when. It explains how our federal delegation and presidential electors are selected. It explains how we support our military and overseas voters, our tribal voters, and voters with a disability. It lays out technical requirements for the voting systems we use. In summary, it is an instruction manual and rule book for the state, county, and city elections officials, and for everyone curious about Nevada's electoral process. The NFL has a rule book. Now imagine that the NFL did not update their rule book except once a decade or maybe every 20 years. Picture how different the game of football would be for those teams unlucky enough to face our amazing Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. Instead, the NFL updates their rulebook annually, addressing safety and technical issues, making sure it stays updated, for example, as technology advances. Title 24 is the same. It needs to be updated. In fact, it routinely is. Policy decisions by legislators and voters alike over the last 5 years alone have added same-day voter registration, universal vote by mail, automatic voter registration, and increased transparency, security, and accessibility in a number of ways. But beyond those policy decisions, there is also a need for routine, nonpartisan cleanup to keep our election rulebook up to date. As of my last count, NRS 293 has 399 individual statutes. 19 of those were created in 1960 and have not been updated since. Now, maybe they don't need to be. Maybe we just got it right in 1960 and everything is fine. The definition of elector is a great example of that. NRS 293.055 was created in 1960 and to this day still means a quote, a person who is eligible to vote under the provisions of Section 1, Article 2 of the Constitution of the State of Nevada, end quote. Perfect. No one extra word, but not every statute is like that. NRS 293B is the chapter on mechanical voting systems or devices. It contains 80 statutes. Of those 80, 39 have not been updated or amended since the mid-1980s. Believe me when I say that quite a bit has changed since the mid-1980s when it comes to what a mechanical device is and how we should talk about them in statute. What you have before you today is our effort in close coordination with county and city election officials going back to 2021 to identify those statutes that could benefit from being updated in a truly nonpartisan and non-policy manner. Senate Bill 74 contains 78 separate provisions that were developed in my time and under Secretary Sagaski. We introduced Senate Bill 60 last session that was similar to what SB 74 is today. There were 5 additional provisions that we've proposed in an amendment, as they are also appropriate for a truly nonpartisan cleanup bill. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Deputy Velashin now, though as always, both he and Chief Deputy DeCara, myself, will be available to talk with you now or one-on-one if you have any questions or specific comments about the bill. Deputy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Deputy Secretary Woloshyn. And just to jump in, I do expect to see the Raiders win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, so no joke about that. Thank you, Deputy Secretary, for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Chair. Mark Velashin, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. The 48 provisions of Senate Bill 74 are spread across 9 chapters, extending even beyond the 9 chapters of Title 24. They can generally be grouped into 3 categories: clarifications, conforming changes, and administrative adjustments. Clarifications are intended to help both elections officials and members of the public alike by providing additional information about a process or procedure. Sections 7 and 31 are good examples. The statute that allows a high school student to become a, quote, trainee election board officer states they must be appointed without party affiliation. But it's not exactly clear what that means. These sections in this bill clarify that a student may apply regardless of any affiliation with a political party or even party affiliation on their application to register or pre-register to vote, with the hopes that it reassures the public and encourages more civic engagement from students. Conforming changes are provided to align statutes across the elections. There are, of course, a number of differences between elections in statute. The presidential preference primary, for example, has only 1 week of early voting, but primary and general elections have 2 weeks. Those were policy decisions. Some differences were left vague and on the legislative record, though, and after careful critical review, have been included here. Again, not policy decisions. Section 30 is a good example of this. NRS 293.202 allows a candidate to withdraw their candidacy in writing and in person within 7 days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, after the last day for filing. But NRS 293C.195 currently says candidates for city office only have 2 business days. A failure to withdraw by the deadline, of course, means their name will go on the ballot. We've received complaints from city candidates who wanted to withdraw, but saw in 293 it said 7 days, and then came in after the 2-day window, according to 293C, had already closed. That is an unnecessary inconsistency that has only caused confusion. Finally, administrative cleanups are the most basic of cleanup. Section 10 is a good example of that. NRS 293.296 requires, quote, none of these candidates to be added to the ballot for every statewide office and for President and Vice President of the United States. And Nevadans have had that option on their ballot since 1975. But in subsection 1 of that statute, and again, 75 was when it was passed, 76 was the first election that was possible. But in subsection 1 of that statute, it says specifically that there must be a square for the voter to indicate their choice. With assistance from the good folks at the Library and Archives, I was able to find ballots from the mid-70s that had squares, like this one that I have here with me from Story County for the 1976 general election. I will pause a moment to say the most shocking part of this sample ballot was not actually the squares, but the fact that there's somebody whose name is on this and that is in our room with us today from the 76 general election. She may be testifying in public comment later. We'll see. If a voter didn't want to vote for Jimmy Carter or Gerald Ford at the 1976 general election, They could have placed an X in the square next to none of these candidates. At any rate, those squares were soon phased out by advancements in technology, and we now have our ballots use ovals, which is why we propose this update. In the interest of time, and instead of walking through the rest of the provisions, we have provided additional information separately as exhibits, but we'll be ready for detailed questions when we're done. There's also a proposed amendment to the bill that proposes adjustments to sections 1, 12, 20, 21, 25, and 26, and would remove sections 11 and 32 and add 5 other provisions, including updating definitions and adjusting descriptions. That concludes my portion of the presentation.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I know I've got a couple of questions, and then Vice Chair Daley has to head to another committee. So then he's got a couple which he wrote down for me that I can ask if he has to leave. But why don't, if you have a minute, Vice Chair, go ahead with your questions. And then members, I'm happy to go to any other questions.
Real quick, the first one was in section 4, but is that being deleted in your amendment?
Mark Voloshin for the record. Section 4, I do not believe is addressing the amendment.
I just said that was the filing fee for the presidential preference was $250, but I thought we had another bill.
Mark Voloshin for the record. Thank you, Chair, through you to Senator Daley. In regards to the president's preference primary, this provision does conflict with another bill that has been submitted in regards to the proposed cost of the filing for the president's preference primary.
Okay, and that's fine. And the only other question I had was in section 7, if that one survived. Section 7 and actually 31. The way I read it was subsection 2 seems to conflict with subsection 3, but maybe I'm reading it wrong.
Thank you for the question, Senator Mark Voloshin for the record. So in regards to conflict, I believe, again, and we can review that to see if there is, the goal was really to clarify in section 3 that the political affiliation element was not limiting for those students. It did survive also, it's not part of the amendment, but we can review that with legal and certainly consider adjustments and amendments if need be.
I read subsection 2, a pupil is appointed without political party affiliation, and then subsection 3, the pupil may be appointed as a trainee pursuant to this section regardless of his or her with a political party.
Oh, and Mark Voloshin for the record, thank you, Senator. So the intent behind appointing without a political party affiliation is so that, again, a student who's not a voter yet, they are, again, pre-registered. We talk about appointing them without political party affiliation, meaning that we wouldn't have a member of a major political party and then a student saying, well, he or she may claim, well, I'm affiliated with this party, and try to create that bipartisan requirement, meet the bipartisan requirement with a student, essentially.
The language was just confusing. It's similar language in section 31, but those were my 2 questions, so thank you. I got to run to the other committee.
Thank you, Vice Chair Daley, and best of luck over in your other committee. My question, Deputy Secretary Voloshin, Secretary Aguilar, section 26 on page 35 of the original bill that talks about the Secretary of State shall adopt by regulation a cyber incident response plan for elections. Each county and city clerk and other local election official is required to comply with the requirements of the cyber incident response plan. I wonder if you could just expand a little bit about what you think the cyber incident might be, what the plan, what you envision it being if this passes, and how we'd respond to something like that if it happens. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. I'm Mark Voloshin for the record. So the cyber plan was something that we've identified as a requirement really since 2020. The idea behind creating the cyber security plan is not to replace anything that the governor's Office of the Chief Information Officer, OCIO, or for that matter, the Office of Cyber Defense Coordination, OCDC, have already required. This is simply to create a plan where that will encourage county and city election officials to discuss with their emergency management and county and city leadership essentially about what would that look like if there was a cybersecurity incident. We have a number of proposed concepts that we would put into regulation very specifically so that it would have to go through the Legislative Commission for approval prior to becoming a codified requirement. But again, the idea really is to pull that out to make sure that when we think about election security, more routinely than not, there's a lot of focus on physical security of the voting machines, of the election officials, of the ballots, the transfer ballots from ballot drop boxes to and from central counting. But this really would hone in and provide more detail to make sure that best practices are shared across the state, so that, again, the cyber defense of the elections process is maintained at a high standard.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary. Members, any additional questions, either for Secretary or Deputy Washington? No. I'm not seeing any additional questions. Thank you very much for the presentation today. With that, I'd like to open it up to support for Senate Bill 74. Anyone who'd like to speak in support? We are limiting speakers to 2 minutes per speaker. We'll start here in Carson City, then we'll go down to Las Vegas, then we'll go to the phone lines. Whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed. Thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ryan Vortish. That's spelled RyanVortisch, and I am the Northern Nevada Democracy Coordinator of Silver State Voices. I'm here to testify in support of SB 74 on behalf of my organization and the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. Among the numerous positive proposals brought forth in this bill, at Silver State Voices, we are beyond excited about the opportunity SB 74 presents for expanding access to Nevada's effective absentee system for elections, or EASE. All eligible voters, regardless of their mobility or state of health, have a constitutional right to cast their ballot and deserve an equitable experience in our electoral process. The EASE voting system prioritizes security and transparency, making it a safe and accessible option for many types of voters, including those overseas, in the military, or on tribal lands. According to our Secretary of State, Francisco Aguilar, the EASE system undergoes consistent security reviews and updates. Furthermore, the proposed cyber incident response plan in this bill would directly respond to any points of concern. Disinformation around voter fraud cannot be the foundation for barring eligible voters from the ballot box. We appreciate the efforts the Secretary of State's office has taken to advocate for the accessibility and security of our elections, with neither coming at the expense of the other. SB 74 is a great example of this and of Nevada's longtime reputation as a voting rights champion state. We urge your support on SB 74. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. My name is Kayla Maese, spelled Kaylah. Last name is Maese. I'm a civil rights analyst at the ACLU of Nevada, and we are also members of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. The ACLU of Nevada supports SB 74, which expands the EASE voter program. This legislation is a critical step towards ensuring that all eligible voters, especially those who face barriers to reaching the polls, have equitable access to the ballot. Voting is a fundamental right, and expanding programs like EASE helps uphold that right for Nevadans who are often overlooked in traditional election processes, including military personnel, overseas voters, and individuals with limited mobility or access. We thank the Secretary of State for bringing this important bill forward, and we urge the committee to support SB 74 as well.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'm not seeing anyone else here in Carson City, so I'd like to go down to the Las Vegas hearing room. Whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and committee members. My name is Chanel Casanello, ChanelCassanello, and I'm the campaign manager at All Voting is Local Action Nevada, an organization that advocates for policies and legislative priorities that expand voter access. We urge you to support SB 74. This legislation improves voters' accessibility to casting a ballot and streamlines our electoral process. A key factor of SB 74 is the expansion of EASE to cover voters who are inhibited by an illness, a disability, or sudden hospitalization and do not have access to their mail-in ballot. This bill ensures voters facing these challenging circumstances or unexpected health emergencies are still able to exercise their right to vote. Existing law already allows the use of EASE by voters who are active members of the United States Armed Forces, their spouse and their dependents, Nevadans who are outside the country, Nevadans with disabilities, and tribal voters who live on a colony or reservation. Voters added to EASE under SB 74 would abide by the same application deadline as those currently covered by the system. We also support the requirement of voter registration agencies to inform voters who register after the vote by mail deadline of their remaining voting options. This will not only enhance voter preparedness and participation, but may alleviate poll workers' workload at election sites. Lastly, it's imperative for me to underscore that Nevada's elections are secure and safe, and we appreciate this bill's initiative for the Secretary of State to establish a cyber incident response plan to further strengthen our elections. Overall, this bill introduces important new safeguards to our election system and expands voter access, and we urge you to support SB 74. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. My name is Maureen Schaefer, Schafer, and I'm the Executive Director for Council for a Better Nevada. I'm writing in support of SB 74. I want to thank the committee and Secretary Aguilar for bringing this bill forward today. SB 74 represents the needed modernization for Nevada's election system, which brings transparency, efficiency, and security to our state's election system. The Lindsay Institute, together with the Council for a Better Nevada, is now tracking 37 pieces of legislation or budget proposals this session that represent additional modernization ideas for state government. We screen legislation using this mission statement. Government modernization is a process to reimagine and transform Nevada's and its workforce performance by updating and improving processes, systems, or services that incorporate continuous improvement, transparency, and innovation into its operations. SB 74 is at the top of this priority list and meets this definition with the revisions of, among many, ideas in this bill that include candidate eligibility standards, election board provisions, campaign contribution provisions for special elections, and methods for paying candidate filing fees and registered voters' use of approved electronic transmissions, among many other ideas in this bill. Please support the continued modernization of Nevada's election systems. Support SB 74. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schaefer. I don't see anyone else coming forward in Las Vegas in support of Senate Bill 74. So broadcasting, if we could go to the phone lines in support of Senate Bill 74, we're allotting 2 minutes per speaker.
Thank you, sir. If you would like to testify in support of SB 74, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 623 on your phone, you are unmuted and you may begin. Please go ahead, caller.
Please ensure that you are unmuted on your end as well.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Charles Olander, CharlesOlander. I'm an organizer with Planned Parenthood Advocates Marmonte, calling in support of Senate Bill 74. This bill will allow people with illnesses or disabilities who are unable to access traditional voting methods to vote using the same safe and secure system we trust to handle the votes of our overseas service members. Additionally, the bill will make it easier for voters to update their registration and require agencies to notify voters of their options, making Nevada's elections fair and accessible to all eligible voters and continuing Nevada's commitment to voting rights. We urge you to support Senate Bill 74. Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 354, please press star 6 to unmute your line and you're ready to talk. Chair, the public line is open and working and there are no other callers wishing to testify in support of SB 74.
Thank you very much, broadcasting. I'd now like to go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to Senate Bill 74, I'd like to start here in Carson City, and then I'll go down to the Las Vegas hearing room, and then we'll go to the phone lines. Thank you very much for joining us today. Good afternoon, and whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state chairman of the Independent American Party. And I do want to say I appreciate the Secretary of State and and Mark Voloshin, because they're always very friendly and helpful, and I appreciate that. We oppose the expansion of electronic voting that's in this bill in Section 1. We don't think it's necessary to expand this. We think it's a risk. I looked up some information from the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Election Assistance Commission, the FBI, and the National Institute for Standards and Technology. They stated, while there are effective risk management controls to enable electronic ballot delivery and marking, we recommend paper ballot return, as electronic ballot return technologies are high risk, even with controls in place. Recognizing that some election officials are mandated by state to employ this high-risk process, its use should be limited to voters who have no other means and to return their ballots and have it counted. Notably, we assess that electronic delivery of ballots to voters for return by mail is less vulnerable to the system and disruption. Going on with that information, they state electronic ballot return, the digital return of a voted ballot by the voter, creates significant security risks to the confidentiality of the ballot, voter data, voter privacy, voter secrecy, integrity of the voted ballot, and availability of the system. We view electronic ballot return as high risk. We are very concerned about electronic ballot voting, and we appreciate that. We don't have many concerns with the rest of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Ms. Hanson. Whoever would like to go next, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. My name is Joshua Skaggs, and I'm the Legislative Affairs Director for the Nevada Republican Party here in opposition to SB 74. Section 1 of SB 74 enables registered voters who are unable to access their mail ballot or go to the polls due to illness, sudden hospitalization, or being called away from home to use an approved system of electronic transmission to apply for and cast their ballot. The Nevada Republican Party strongly opposes the expanding of electronic voting systems to additional groups of voters. The EASE system is already in use far beyond its intended scope. If we continue to expand EASE access every single session, we'll end up with a universal online voting system. Such a system would have vulnerabilities that could potentially be exploited, such as hacking or tampering with data and other cyber attacks, especially if the systems are connected to the internet. Electronic voting eliminates any possibility of having safe and transparent elections. Instead, the Nevada Republican Party strongly supports the use of paper ballots and in-person voting on a single election day with voter ID as fundamental safeguards of election integrity. These methods provide transparency, reduce opportunities for tampering, and ensure public confidence in the voting process. At a minimum, we oppose allowing votes to be cast after Election Day as in our current system. Absentee ballots should be issued only to those with valid excuses with a voter ID application process to maintain strict accountability while accommodating voters with genuine needs. Please vote no on SB 74. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Skaggs. Thank you. State your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lynn Chapman, and I'm the State Vice President of Nevada Families for Freedom. And this is a very large bill to try to get 2 minutes worth of testimony in on. But ditto on a lot of what's already been said. Stanford University did do a study in 2024. They wrote a paper, and they were talking about voting is controlled by now voting is controlled by electronics, and the processes leading to the vote remain unseen by the human eye. Despite the change in method of voting, the basic facets of good voting tactics remain the same. Excuse me, ensuring one vote per voter, maintaining voter anonymity, I'm trying to talk too fast, accuracy of voting, security of the system, and prevention of fraud. And there's different things that people are complaining about, issues with technology, vast possibilities of fraud, and protection of voters and their votes. And they like to have vote accuracy. That's one of their main issues. And They wanted to have, to provide much of their personal information not to be on the ballots, on the outside of the ballot. Excuse me. And also absentee ballots. They always worked very well in the past for overseas voters and our military and people who are ill or in the hospital. And now they're talking about people who left home. Well, if they leave home, why can't they bring their ballot with them and mail it in? So we'd like paper ballots and voter ID as well, but that's not in here. So that's why we are against the bill. Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony, Ms. Chapman. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Joy Trushinsky, Trushenski. I'm a non-paid lobbyist, Navy veteran. I do not support SB 74, which expands the use of electronic voting in Nevada elections. According to the U.S. cybersecurity, electronic ballot return technology is risky and subject to hacking. Many of us in Nevada do not even want electronic voting. We want paper ballots, voter ID, single-day voting, and hand counting the same day. The use of electronic voting should be limited very strictly. We believe that, or people like me believe, mail-in ballots is preferred over electronic voting for those with illnesses and for the military who are overseas. Please vote no on SB 74. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trushinsky, and thank you for your military service. Thanks for your comment. Whoever would like to go next, please state your name for the record and proceed.
My name is George Taylor, Taylor, Taylor Swift. I'm from Reno. I'm an independent citizen. I just want to argue that I think we have arrived at a very extensive and complete absentee vote-by-mail system. And I think since we've solved the problem, we should leave it where it is and not introduce another wrinkle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. Thanks for traveling down from Reno to testify. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Okay. My name is Leslie Beach, and I want to tell you who I am first. First of all, my dad played football for the Navy and for the Washington Redskins, so there's the football deal, okay? I have a husband who served 23 years in the Air Force and the Army. I have a son who is a Marine. They've all voted by absentee, and they have no problem with that. I also have a brother who's disabled. He voted without having a problem. I also have two sons, one that writes code and one that is I call him my son, my geek son. So they're very familiar with programming and the problems that come with it. I also am a 37-year business owner in Nevada. Woman business owner. I am a girl. I admit that. Also, I would like to thank you for your service to our great state. Thank you very much. I also represent the Nevada Federation of Republican Women, and we are 100% against this. And I was just nominated as the president for the Churchill County Central Committee, and we are 100% against this as well. We feel that this will be more problematic than solution-based. And thank you very much for your service.
Testimony. Thanks for traveling from Churchill County up here to testify. Not seeing anyone else in opposition here in Carson City. Down in Southern Nevada, if there's anyone who wishes to speak in opposition, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and legislators. My name is Leslie Quinn. I oppose SB 74. I oppose SB 74 Sections 20, 21, and 24. Section 20 and 21 refer to voter roll maintenance based on changes of residence. I recommend an addition be made to subsection 2, paragraph J, 1 and 2, namely that the voter status be changed temporarily from active to inactive so that a mail ballot is not sent erroneously to the registrant's old address. Once the registrant responds, then the appropriate correction to the record can be made and either put back to active status and send the mail ballot or remove the record entirely. I also strongly oppose SB 74 Section 24. The new section allows for same-day registration updates when voting in person during early vote or on election day. It removes the requirement for using provisional ballots. How is voter eligibility assured in these cases? Is the possible reason aimed to reduce the election poll workers' workload? Unfortunately, we will sacrifice voter roll security and accuracy as a result. I highly recommend that more common sense legislation be considered instead, namely that the voter registration process be closed 30 days prior to Election Day. This will allow adequate time for the county clerks to verify eligibility of new registrants as well as people who move. This will greatly eliminate provisional voting and the resulting workload. It should also be noted that same-day voting encourages voters to procrastinate and worse, instill fraudulent behavior since verifications are minimized. It is surprising that the Secretary of State's office would support such a change. I urge you to oppose SB 74. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Quinn. Thanks for your patience. I don't see anyone else down there in Las Vegas coming forward in opposition to Senate Bill 74. So broadcasting, if we could go to the phone lines, anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to Senate Bill 74, we are allotting 2 minutes per speaker.
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 74, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Hello, my name is Michael Ryan, Michaelryan. I'm a longtime resident of Nevada and a Marine Corps veteran. Please vote no on SB 74, which further expands electronic voting. According to the U.S. Cybersecurity Agency, electronic ballot return technologies are high risk. In a 2020 memo to election officials, the FBI and other federal agencies assessed the risk of sending ballots electronically to be low. However, allowing those ballots to be returned electronically was very high. Why is the Nevada Secretary of State expanding electronic voting when there are significant risks associated with it? This does not make any sense whatsoever. Please vote no on SB 74, and thank you.
Good afternoon, Oscar Williams calling, OSCAR WILLIAMS from Reno. Good afternoon. SB 74 is not some sleepy, let's clean up some old, stale, out-of-dated statutes. This is a radical push toward internet-based voting for any voter. If this passes, we'll be first in the nation, won't we? With all internet voting for everybody? That'd be quite an accomplishment. As other speakers have mentioned, the internet as a piece of critical election infrastructure is not considered to be secure. Further reliance on it is, I don't think, in our best interest. I certainly don't want it. Sections 12 and 33 of this bill gut how paper ballots are counted, pursuant to NRS 293-363, 293C-362, and replaces them with NRS 293-269-331 and 293C-26331. Sorry, a lot of numbers. But the change to these other statutes now, these other statutes, they really have no details on handling ballots. It's consistent with the push to eliminate paper ballots. I can see where the trajectory is on this. Section 48 of this bill repeals certain provisions that prohibit a counting board from commencing to count the votes until all ballots are accounted for. I'm tongue-tied. I'm opposed to that. Additionally, we waited till all ballots are received before counting starts, and there seems to be some rush to upend the counting so we can monitor, I guess, where the algorithm can make the changes along the way. I disagree with that. As a fiscal note, the bill has an unfunded mandate, both local and state. It was not requested by local government. But more than that, This further enshrines a split system of voting in Nevada in contravention to our voter bill of rights that allows us a uniform statewide standard of counting and recounting all votes. Accurately, that is provided by law. We have historically had a system of voting on paper, and we're introducing more and more digital type ballots, internet-based ballots voting, and it's our legacy.
Mr. Williams, we are at 2 minutes, so
and
if you could wrap
violates our
up your
rights.
comments. Thank you.
I will. Please vote no on passage of SB 74 until the aforementioned issues are removed or resolved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marcus Jensen. I'm a Nevada resident of Clark County. I'm strongly opposing SB 74, specifically regarding sections 1 and 28. SB 74 would recklessly usher in the widespread use of unsecure online voting for all local Nevada residents and expands the opportunity for hackable and fraudulent voting. It should absolutely not be considered. As referenced by others, in 2018, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, an agency inside the U.S. Department of Commerce, issued a study titled Risk Management for Electronic Ballot Delivery, Marking, and Return. This study was conducted in conjunction with 3 other agencies: the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the Election Assistance Commission, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They all identified the risks and considerations for election administrators seeking to use electronic ballot delivery, electronic ballot marking, and or electronic return of marked ballots. The cybersecurity characteristics of these remote voting solutions are further explored in an NIS study titled A Threat Analysis of UOCAVA Voting Systems. These studies call out the unsecure nature of sending ballots through the use of electronic transmission options and present significant challenges to the integrity of the election. It also points out how voter privacy and personal information is at risk of exposure. The public internet in 2025 is not secure and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Even technologies such as blockchain over the public internet are not a solution at this time, since there are no robust voting applications that have been certified by NIST, CISA, or the EAC. It baffles me that the Secretary of State's office would be willing to put our elections at increased risk of tampering and fraudulent behavior. Secure and accurate voter rolls should be our guiding principle for all election legislation, not embracing technology that is not yet ripe for confidently and reliably protecting election integrity. Please vote no on SB 74. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Am I connected?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Jane Davis, and I am a resident of Nye County. I strongly oppose SB 74. While SB 74 covers the general topic of elections, it has 43 sections covering a wide range of different subjects. Bills like this should not be permitted. If you split up SB 74 in single subjects as the statutes call for, it covers a multitude of election categories, such as electronic voting, voter registration, and recommendations to repeal 5 sections in NSR 293 and more. What is the motivation for the Secretary of State's office to submit such a large bill? Does the election office just want to assure quick passage? Because it is such a long bill, it will take lots of time to analyze and people will just give up. How does the public provide 2-minute public comments on specific problem areas in the bill? The answer is it's impossible, but maybe that is the intent. It seems to me that the Secretary of State's office assumes that everyone will just go along with what the department proposes. This is a rather arrogant treatment of the public's opinion. For the record, there are issues with sections 1 and 28, 16 and 35, 12 and 33, 15, 20 and 21, 24 and 48. Please withdraw this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, CYRUS, HOJJATY. I stand in opposition. I will ditto the previous commentators. Thank you so much. I'm driving right now.
Hi, Yolanda Canuck, Yolanda, last name Knaak. I'm representing myself. I'm a resident of Washoe County. SB 74 expands electronic voting. It increases access but not security, decreases security. If you recall, question 7, requiring ID to vote, Nevadans voted 73.7% in favor. Voters want extra security. This bill takes security away. Please vote no.
If you have recently joined and would like to testify in opposition to SB 74, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 925, you may begin.
Yes, my name is Alan Munson, and I'm a resident of Washoe County, and I agree, and I'm concerned about Senate Bill 74, and I wish to oppose this bill. I'm just concerned about it opens up the opportunity for fraud and cheating and not being able to check that. And so I do agree with previous speakers. And so, thank you.
Public line is open and working. There are no additional callers at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. I'd like to now go to neutral testimony. Anyone who's neutral on Senate Bill 74 and wishes to be heard, I'll start here in Carson City, then we'll go down to the legislative hearing room in Las Vegas. Whoever would like to begin first, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Sean Sever from the Nevada DMV. I'm a 49ers fan, sorry. We are neutral on SB 74. We do have a fiscal note on the DMV portions of this bill, and in this case, it's a no impact. The DMV can make written notice available, and the expected number of customers requiring written notification is minimal enough that we anticipate being able to absorb the printing of the notifications in our standard business operations. Thanks.
Thank you for your testimony. Whoever would like to go next.
Thank you. Amy Bergens, Douglas County Clerk Treasurer. I just want to say this is a very large bill, and I appreciate what the Secretary of State and especially Mark Voloshin, he has throughout every election. He is the one that tracks all of the complaints that the clerks have. Like this part of the law isn't clear, or this part needs to be cleaned up. And he tracks those and he brings those forward. And I very much appreciate their hard work in bringing this forward. However, with the amount of things that are in this bill, we need to be sure that we are checking to make sure that every single part is going to be beneficial to all of the voters in Douglas, or in the state of Nevada and Douglas County. So I would just say, let's make sure that we're reading every single section, that we're sure that every single section has a benefit to the state of Nevada. And then, let's ensure that the cleanup portions that the clerks are looking for do end up getting passed. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And good afternoon, sir. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Wally, William Adam Henry Lincoln Edward. I am from Carson City. Lisa Krasner is my senator. So I figured I would get up here and just take a neutral stand. I think the first thing we need to do is get people out to vote. We need to get people involved in our elections. The Republicans want a DNA sample, 3 forms ID, and everything else. The Democrats, it don't matter. So that's a political angle. But what we need is to get these people involved somehow. Whether the Secretary of State, what he does, is what's going to happen, and what you people do is what's going to happen. As a kid, I grew up in the city of Chicago, and let me tell you, there is all sorts of people voting, dead, alive, non-existent. It's been that way, man, at least a good 70 years that I know about. But it works, and it has worked. Now, my only question is this. You can always compromise technology, you can compromise paper, you can compromise anything. But look at the Fidelity, Vanguard, and all these big banks. They get hacked because people know if we can get in, we'll get some money. But if we get into the state of Nevada system, what are we going to get? Put some other person in charge? Something to think about. What we need to do is get the people involved so that we can have more people. I think that's the greatest thing we can do for our democracy. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony, sir. Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to go down to the Las Vegas hearing room and see if there's anyone who wishes to be heard neutral on Senate Bill 74. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to be heard neutral on Senate Bill 74?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for SB 74, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working, but there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to invite Deputy Secretary for Elections Washington just to see if there's any closing comments you'd like to make. Thank you for presenting Senate Bill 74 today.
Thank you, Chair. Mark Voloshin, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. Secretary Aguilar had to step out, but again, I do want to thank, first of all, you, Chair, and the committee for hearing the bill, as well as the members of the public who took time to read and provide feedback about the bill as well, both positive and against. To be clear, very much understand the volume of the changes and the nuance involved, and the fact that so many individuals took time to read it simply reflects that they are also taking elections very seriously and are concerned about the integrity of the process. I will like to reiterate from the Secretary on down, again, through every state official, county official, and city official, I try not to speak for everybody except for when I talk about the importance of integrity and security of that process. It's something that we all take very seriously, and we would not have put into cleanup bills something that jeopardized the integrity of the electoral process. And lastly, I do just want to mention that if anybody has any questions about the bill and would like to talk one-on-one even about any one provision or why on earth we think this is secure when it's they think it's not, or maybe to get an explanation about like what exactly does that mean, we are more than willing to meet with them now during the session, after the session, throughout, leading up to and through an election cycle, because again, voter education is so critically important. Email at nvelect@sos.nv.gov, or they can always call 775-684-5705. And that will get to my team, and we'll schedule those meetings to talk. Because again, the integrity of the process is so critical, but it simply reflects that the Secretary and myself want the same thing that you, Senator, and the callers today and the people in the room behind me also want. We want our one vote to count. We want people who are not eligible to not be able to vote, period. So the process maintains its integrity as it has since the birth of our statehood. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and appreciate your open door policy that you and the Secretary have to folks with all different opinions across the spectrum. Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to close the hearing on Senate Bill 74, and I would like to now see. I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 421. Thank you very much for your patience, and so yes, 421. Thank you very much for being here, and I know we've had to reschedule this bill, and I thank you for being here and coming back to help present Senate Bill 421. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us and appreciate you coming back. I know we had to reschedule when another committee went late a couple of weeks ago, so thank you. And whoever would like to begin, thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Andrea Martinez, ANDREA-MARTINEZ. I am the former chairman and tribal citizen of the Walker River Paiute Tribe. Nevada has a long history of imposing barriers to voting for tribal nations. Following a lawsuit in 2016, the Walker River Paiute Tribe versus Mineral County and the Secretary of State, along with the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, the state has taken steps to address these injustices, particularly through laws passed last session. Now, every tribe wanting a polling place or drop box has one. In 2024, there were 20 reservation-based polling places across the state, up from 0 in 2016. With 3 new polling places in 2024, we should be proud of this progress. Also, as a side note, we did early voting at the Walker River Paiute Tribe, and we had actually more of a turnout for the early voting on the reservation than the county. While this was a great step forward, SB 421 addresses a few lingering issues. Previously, county clerks and tribes met to determine who would recruit poll workers, but the vague language in the law often left this responsibility unclear. As a result, many polling places lacked adequate staffing. Various short-term solutions were used, including staffing by the Secretary of State's office, and in at least one case, a tribe contributing $5,000 to increase poll worker pay. No other community bears these kind of burdens to their staff in polling locations. To fix this, SB 421 explicitly assigns county clerks the responsibility to ensuring that tribal polling places are fully staffed, just as they do for all polling locations. Additionally, this bill addresses another key barrier, the requirement that potential poll workers travel long distances to the county office for in-person training, which has led to recruited poll workers dropping out. SB 421 mandates that clerks provide training in person at the tribal nation or virtually to eliminate this barrier. Due to the laws passed last session, I believe that we have the best tribal voting laws in the country, and we are a model for other states. These small but crucial changes will help ensure that tribal polling places are properly staffed and fully operational. Thank you, Senator Orenshaw, for sponsoring this bill and for we want to thank him for sponsoring this bill and his continued support for tribal nations.
Thank you very much for being here and presenting. Thank you. Please state your name for the record and proceed. Vice Chair Thomas, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Ms. Martinez. And we really appreciate you being here, and certainly Walker River Tribe is always special to the legislature because Speaker Oseguera was our first Native American speaker and I believe a former member of the Walker River Tribe, or member of the Walker River Tribe. Vice Chair Thomas, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Senator Orenshaw and your committee. Vice Chairman Arnold Thomas, A-R-N-O-L-D, last name Thomas, T-H-O-M-A-S. I am the current Vice Chairman, Shoshone Paiute Tribes of Duck Valley. We support SB 421 as reference regarding the $5,000 an effort to recruit additional poll workers. We are the tribal nation that had to seek additional funding because it wasn't sufficient enough regarding hiring of those workers. In addition to that, we experienced the lack of training because of the distance it is from Duck Valley or Hawaii, Nevada to Elko. It's an hour and a half one way to get to Elko County for the training. So in the last several years, we requested training for our co-workers there in Duck Valley, and the other option was virtual training. So we encourage the support for SB 421. And thank you for all your support to the Walker River Paiute, Pyramid Lake Paiute, and Andrea, and the rest of the supporters, and also for you, Senator Orenshaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and thank you, Vice Chair Thomas. Thank you, Ms. Martinez, for presenting Senate Bill 421. And members, are there any questions on Senate Bill 421? I'm not seeing any questions. Thank you very much for being here. And we will now open it up to support for Senate Bill 421. And I really appreciate the presentation. Thank you all for joining us. Whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record. And we are limiting testimony to 2 minutes per speaker. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon or good evening, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. My name is Cal Boone, spelled C-A-L-B-O-O-N-E. I am testifying, so I'm the Tribal Outreach Coordinator for the Secretary of State's office, and I'm also a citizen of the Walker River Paiute Tribe. I am testifying on behalf of Secretary Aguilar's behalf since he had to step out. The Secretary is in support of SB 421 as it expands Native voting rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ryan Vortish. That's spelled R-Y-A-N, last name V-O-R-T-I-S-C-H, and I am the Northern Nevada Democracy Coordinator of Silver State Voices. I'm here to testify in support of SB 421 on behalf of my organization and the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. We'd like to uplift the experiences of the impacted tribal leaders and community members who have spoken in support today and urge you to ensure that Nevada's tribal communities are guaranteed equitable access to the polls. Through our election protection program, we have seen firsthand that not every tribal location is adequately provided resources. We believe SB 421 is a solution to ensure each tribe's needs are met when it comes to elections. Please support SB 421. Thank you.
Mr. Borders, thanks for your testimony. Whoever would like to go next, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. Isaac Tenorio, I-Z-A-C-K-T-E-N-O-R-I-O, with Strategy 360, today representing Camping Legal Center. Camping Legal Center supports SB 421 to continue Nevada's efforts in making vital and needed improvements to systems affording greater voting accessibility to Nevada's tribal population. This law makes an important tweak that will have an outsized impact for individuals voting at polling places located on tribal reservations and colonies. This bill would create an opt-out program by which it would be mandatory for the county or the city clerk to recruit poll workers for polling places located on tribal lands and ensure proper and comprehensive training about how to use the mechanical voting systems. While recruitment of poll workers presents a challenge across the state, it is vital that tribal leaders have the support of their county clerks or city clerks to ensure the success of the newly established polling places. Proper implementation is vital to the effectiveness of any major policy, and we applaud this committee for tackling this issue and considering this reform as we continue to improve laws on the books. Thank you so much, and we urge your support on this important piece of legislation. Thank you.
You very much, Dr. Tenorio. Whoever would like to go next, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. Dev Bararia, on behalf of Silver State Government Relations, here representing Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe. I'd like to thank Walker River Paiute Tribe members and Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute Tribe members who came out in support and presented this bill. Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe is also in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Reverend Paul Larson, P-A-U-L-L-A-R-S-O-N. On behalf of, I'm Director of Lutheran Engagement and Advocacy in Nevada. On behalf of Lutherans across Nevada, we support SB 421. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Thank you for your testimony. I don't see anyone else in support here in Carson City. Down at the Sawyer Building in support of Senate Bill 421, I don't see anyone coming forward. Phone lines. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to speak in support of Senate Bill 421?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 421, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Matilda Miller. That's Mathildamiller. I am Kanaka Valley, and I serve as the Government Relations Director for Native Voters Alliance Nevada, and we are in strong, unwavering support of Senate Bill 421. Nevada is home to 28 federally recognized tribes, and with that recognition comes a foundational truth. Tribal nations are sovereign. That means each tribal nation has the right to govern itself, its people, and to make decisions that best serve its community. That sovereignty must be respected, not just in words, but how the state engages in a nation-to-nation relationship. SB 421 honors that relationship, and it ensures that tribal governments retain control over the activities happening on their lands, while also guaranteeing that polling locations on tribal lands are effectively supported and staffed. We urge your support. Thank you.
Sir, the public line is open and working. There are no additional callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. With that, I'd like to go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to Senate Bill 421, either here in Carson City or down at the Las Vegas Legislative Hearing Room. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone come forward in opposition. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who's opposed to Senate Bill 421 who wishes to be heard?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 421, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Sir, the public line is open and working. There are no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to now move to neutral. Anyone who's neutral on Senate Bill 421 who wishes to be heard either in Carson City or down at the Las Vegas Legislative Hearing Rooms. I'm not seeing anyone come forward. And Broadcasting, anyone on the phone lines who's neutral on Senate Bill 421 who wishes to be heard.
Sir, there are no callers at this time wishing to testify in neutral.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Martinez, Vice Chair Thomas, any closing comments you'd like to make? No. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for presenting today. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 421. And I'd like to hand the gavel over to Vice Chair Daly. I'm going to be going down to the table to present Senate Bill 428.
Okay, so we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 428. Whenever you're ready, Senator, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Daly, members of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. My name is James Orenshaw. I represent State Senate District 21 down in Southern Nevada. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to present Senate Bill 428, which concerns the eligibility of public officers to continue to hold office if the situation arises where they no longer reside in the area prescribed by law. Senate Bill 428 has four basic components. First, it clarifies that residency outside of the legal district constitutes and creates a vacancy, requires those candidates to swear as part of their oath of office that they will relinquish their office if such a vacancy occurs. Second, Senate Bill 428 specifies the process for filling such vacancies. Third, it makes an officer's residency information more accurate and accessible to election officials and the public. Fourth, Senate Bill 428 revises the voter's ability to challenge an office holder if there is knowledge or evidence of a change of residence outside of the district prescribed by law. At this point, I would like to emphasize how this bill came about and why it is necessary to make these changes. Residency requirements for political office have existed since the founding of our republic. The Federalist Papers noted the lack of proportionate representation in England when most of their representatives in Parliament, and I'm quoting here, do not even reside among the people at large. and cannot add anything either to the security of the people against the government or to the knowledge of their circumstances and interests in the legislative councils. Consequently, the structure of our state and national electoral system defines constituencies by territory, not by economic or corporate interests. As such, the primary goal of electoral districts is to ensure responsiveness to the people by representatives who speak and act in their name. In short, citizens are represented by the areas where they live and the representatives that they elect. At the local level, district elections can allow neighborhoods to protect their interests while reflecting the character of their community. Elected officials who live in their prescribed districts understand that community's needs, those neighborhoods' needs, and their interests. When an elected official no longer resides in their legally defined district, that connection can be damaged or completely lost. In Nevada, there have been several residency-related incidents in the last 2 decades in which a public officer or candidate has been challenged for moving out of their prescribed district or for being untruthful about their residency when they filed for office. The press has made note of the challenges in northern Nevada and in southern Nevada in 2002, 2006, 2008, 2013, and 2016. More recently, I'm sure many of us are aware of a residency challenge that occurred last year at the local government level. Without getting into the details, one elected official who was purported to be living out of state was compelled to resign just as a local district attorney was proceeding with a court action to potentially force such action. Without a resignation by the official, the office in question could not be declared vacant, and therefore another community representative could not fill that role and serve on behalf of those residents and their interests. Under current law, if the public officer fails or refuses to relinquish their office, the district attorney or the attorney general, depending on the jurisdiction, must take legal action to declare that office vacant. Senate Bill 428 is designed to address such situations and to tighten definitions of residency. At this point, if I share with your permission, before I go through the sections of the bill, if I could, with your indulgence, turn it over to my co-presenters on Zoom. I have a former Assembly member, former chair of the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, former Clark County Commissioner and Clark County Commission Chair Christian Kiliani, and I have current School Board Trustee Linda Cavazos, both on Zoom. With your indulgence, I'd like them to be able to address the bill, and then I'm happy to walk through the sections and stand for any questions.
Yes, so whichever one of you wants to go first, go when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, member and Mr. Vice Chairman. My name is Christian Kiliani, Giunchigliani. I had asked Senator Orenshaw to introduce this bill, and I want to thank him publicly. There's much merit in this to ensure the voting integrity by ensuring the individuals who run for office, for election or re-election, actually live in their district or ward. It is a nonpartisan housekeeping bill to tighten up several loopholes in statute. For a bit of history, in 1999, I was chairing Assembly Elections and Ethics, and issues arose as how to better define residency. I asked Senator Raggio for advice on language, and he directed me to Black's Law Dictionary. And the resulting language became the current language in state law, that it's where you live as opposed to constructively reside. Basically, it's where you lay your head at night, where your pets are, where your driver's license says you are. Section 1 through 7, which is current law, says it was intended to avoid sham residences. The current language, which defines 8A, actual residence, still remains the same. But what we are asking to add that you must continue to reside in that seat. I personally filed a written complaint with the district attorney and attorney general, and additionally 5 CCSD trustees sent a certified letter to the DA about the trustee Williams not only not residing in her district, but was living out of state and was still being allowed to call in and cast her votes. I never heard back from either office. They did not even acknowledge the receipt of my complaint. It became abundantly clear that there was no process for the public to file. Eventually, after months, the 5 trustees learned that Metro was investigating. I then accidentally discovered that Metro has a unit to investigate public integrity, but had no knowledge that an investigation was actually occurring. This bill now states that the complainant must be notified. Senate Bill 428, most importantly, adds to the oath of office 2 key provisions. I obtained the new oath language from the city of Las Vegas, and I want to commend them for that. And feel that this should be consistent and statewide. It will lead to more ethical behavior and less shopping around for a seat. Please support this much needed clarification of intent to better protect the integrity of elections. It's the voters' expectation when casting a vote that you actually reside and continue to reside in the area or the district that you are representing. Thank you.
Thank you. Proceed, next person on video, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Owen Shaw and Vice.
Done? I think so.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
There you go. We can hear you again.
Okay. All right. I wanted to add the disclaimer that although I am an elected trustee on the CCSD Board of Trustees, I am speaking today as an individual.
And
I am in full support.
Can we get you to say your name again for the record so we have that?
Yes. Linda Cavazos, Linda Cavazos. I will just say that I will defer to the co-presenter, June Kiliani, and I do stand in full support of SB 428. It is a much needed bill. We have had several instances, one of them very recently, which Ms. Giuliani just spoke of. I was there for many of the times that we had constituents writing in, phoning in, messaging, and asking what could be done about it, with us finding out then that there was no clear public policy or protocol on which to file a complaint and to get some kind of resolution. So at this time, I stand in full support and concur with the presenters of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything more to present, Senator?
Thank you very much. With your indulgence, Vice Chair Daley, Senate Bill 428 adds the obligation of an elected official to maintain legal residency to Nevada's public policy declaration concerning residency. The bill requires all members of the legislature and other public officers, including municipal officers, to swear additional oaths, including that they will relinquish office due to an event causing a vacancy prescribed by law. Except for certain confidential information, a candidate's proof of identity and residency information is a public record. In addition, the certified candidate list exchanged between state and local election officials must contain the candidate's actual residence. Depending upon the jurisdiction, electors may file a challenge with the Attorney General or District Attorney concerning a possible vacancy due to a residency issue, and the elector filing the challenge must be notified of the challenge hearing. If vacancies for a nominee to a partisan office occur after the primary but prior to a certain date, the nominee's political party may select a replacement candidate. For legislative districts occupying more than one county, the county commissioners may jointly select a replacement candidate. For vacancies occurring after the July deadline, the nominee's name remains on the ballot and a vacancy exists if the person is elected. For vacancies in a city general election occurring after the July deadline for such elections, the nominee's name will likewise remain on the ballot, and if elected, then a vacancy would exist. Vice Chair Daley, members of the committee, there is an amendment that was proposed by Clark County. You should have copies at your desk, and it should be on Nellis. I've gone over that amendment with former Assembly member, former Commissioner Jim Kiliani, and I believe it actually improves on the bill. So I do consider that a friendly amendment, and I support that in terms of enforcement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you for your presentation, Senator Orenshaw. So my question is in Section 2, subsection 2, that additional oath. Actually, it starts at line 34. Line 34, I blank do solemnly swear or affirm that I actually reside. So I know we passed a law that said that an elected official can use an alternate address that's in the district. Would this still allow the person to use that, but here you want them to provide their actual physical address?
James Orenshaw, State Senate District 21, through you, Vice Chair, to Senator Krasner. Certainly, my intent is that the physical address where they actually reside is provided. As to bill we passed last session, I think I'd have to look at the bill number and try to get you some more information on that. But my intent is that their actual physical address where they reside is what they list.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Chair, may I please ask another question? And then in that same section, Section 2, subsection 3, actually, they will immediately notify the appropriate entities upon a change of address. Who are the appropriate entities? Thank you.
Thank you. James Orenshaw, Senate District 21. Through you, it's okay to go direct, Vice Chair. Senator Krasner. Certainly, I think it would depend on the office, and it would depend on who would fill the vacancy. In certain cases, it could be the city council, it could be the city manager, it could be the county commission, the county manager, depending on the office. It could be the governor, and possibly the Secretary of State too, depending if it's a legislative office or that. I think it would really depend on the office.
Thank you. So how would they know? I mean, it seems like that's important information. How do they know who to alert? I mean, so let's take a Nevada state senator. There's 2 assembly districts in each of our Senate district. So let's say they move from one assembly district to another assembly district, but they're both in that Senate district. But now they fall under this category where they have to alert someone. We need to know who we're supposed to alert, right?
In James Orenshaw, Senate 21, certainly I think for the office holder, if they no longer actually reside in that district, I think that they certainly could contact, whether it's their counsel for the office they're holding to find out who the appropriate entities are that would fill the vacancy. But maybe there needs to be more clarity in the statute, and that's certainly something I'm open to, and as to what that might need to be.
And Senator, it seems to me at part of the question there, people are going to know who they need to go and notify. It seems to me like whoever you filed for office with, if you're running for city council, you're going to the city clerk and filing. For where I live, my district's completely in Washoe County, so I go to the registrar's office to file. I know other senators who have multiple counties have to come to the Secretary of State to file, so they would have to notify, it seems to me, whoever they file for office with is who they have to notify. And I'm just saying, that's pretty easy. And the candidate is going to know that, and if they don't, we'll leave it at that if they don't know.
And James Orenshaw, Senate 21. No, I appreciate your comments, Vice Chair Daley, and certainly it's really, that's an excellent catch on Senator Krasner's part. Certainly, we'd hope everyone would know, but maybe there needs to be more clarity there as to, who those appropriate entities are, or definition. Maybe that's a little more ambiguous than maybe I would have wanted. So thank you for catching that.
So my only question, and it's just a confirmation, you're going to sign this oath and do this oath when you file. It's going to be a piece of paper you sign when you file. Is that my understanding?
And
because that's the way I recall doing the current oath.
Vice Chair Daley, certainly this oath here in Section 2 states upon entering the duties of the respected office. So here, this oath at NRS 2A2.020, I see as being either upon election or upon appointment to that office, not upon filing, here in Section 2, as I read it.
Okay, so when you get elected, you got to go back to whoever you filed with? Is it going to be, you do it here when you get to the building, or when you get sworn in, there's going to be a new piece of paper you file? Or is it, or can we maybe change that to say, hey, when you file, you're going to do this oath, the same as the other that says you're going to do all of this stuff? And I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
James Orenshaw, Senate District 21, and that's another area maybe there needs to be more clarity here in Section 2, because certainly if, let's say, someone filed and won their election, but then bought a new house in the district, there's no vacancy. They still live within the district. And, that wouldn't cause the issue. But if, certainly as I read Section 2, it would be something upon entering the office is how I read it.
Seeing no other questions from the committee, we will ask you to step back, and we will take testimony and support either here or in Las Vegas. Do we have feed to Las Vegas? We do. So I don't see anybody here in Carson City in person in support, so we'll start in Clark County.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Daley, Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. My name is Anahit Baghtetyan. For the record, that is ANAHIT BAGHSHETSYN, and I'm representing Nevada Policy today. Nevada Policy supports Senate Bill 428. SB 428 addresses a gap in our current system by ensuring that the office holders and candidates not only meet the residency requirements when they file, but also when they are holding the office, as we heard today. Voters elect their representatives based on trust, and trust oftentimes, especially in cases like this, is based on proximity. You cannot rely on your representatives to truly represent and authenticate with your problems unless they reside in the same district that you are asking them to represent. Furthermore, it provides a mechanism for accountability, as we heard today from Chair Orenshall. The measure doesn't just protect the integrity of elections, it reinforces a principle that public service is rooted in genuine community engagement. At a time when public confidence in Silver State is fragile, this bill would send a message to all the voters that the legislature and the public officials are committing to transparency and honesty. For those reasons, we're looking forward to the committee supporting this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Ramona Esparza-Staffregan. I'll spell that Ramona Esparzastaffregan. Although I am an appointed trustee on the Clark County School Board, today I'm speaking as an individual, and I have had the opportunity to witness firsthand several unethical actions by a fellow former trustee that did provide clear evidence why I support SB 428. I was among other representatives that submitted a letter to the DA to request an investigation of a former trustee not residing in District B. I will share only a portion of the letter to justify why this is necessary. We are deeply invested in the integrity of our democratic processes as public officials. It is imperative that our elected officials adhere to the highest ethical standards and fulfill their duty to represent the interests of their constituents who entrusted them with their vote. According to NRS 386165, Section 3 ensures that the residency requirement for elects is not merely a formality, but a fundamental aspect of ensuring fair and equitable representation. We are also questioning the legitimacy of those votes that were casted. Her derelict of duties has impeded our process for rebuilding trust within all communities, and verification by Metro led to her resignation. Here are specific examples where the swing votes that were casted did not repair Lundy Elementary School. That has since been reversed by the board. Voting against obtaining independent board counsel to avoid conflicts of interest. Absence for closed sessions where crucial decisions were made. Absent for numerous school events, inclusive of graduation ceremonies, celebrations, student acknowledgements, which required other trustees to represent. A windfall payout was provided to the former superintendent, and it was originally agendized to appoint a new superintendent instead of completing a national search with community input. Numerous constituents' concerns were unaddressed, therefore the lack of communication with constituents became other trustees' duties to be responsive to. Said trustee did not notify board officers or board council that their residence was not in Nevada. Collecting taxpayer funds while residing not in the state is highly unethical
We're a little
and
bit over our
lacked
2 minutes,
integrity.
if you can almost
Wrap it up?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for your service in this office and the great state of Nevada, and I'm in full support of SB 428. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Clark County? Okay, we don't have anyone here. I know Chris G. wanted to make a comment on the previous discussion, so we'll let you squeeze in here before we go to the phone calls. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Both your question is spot on and Senator Krasner's. When you are, the issue needs to be clarified, I think, that it's upon filing, that's the address that you would be indicating as where your residence. If you move in between your terms and you're still within your district, you just simply notify the entity where you filed to run for office that you are moving within your district. If it's moved out of the district, then the vacancy component comes in. Secondarily, to your question, the affidavit, all of us that were elected, you sign and you get sworn in, even though you were elected in November or January, you are formally sworn in by a judge. That's when the oath of office is done, and you sign a document, even currently, so they can just add this language to that signed oath of office, and that's who it would be filed with. So it's the district in which you. And then it would also then clarify that it's where, if you file for city ward, then you file with the notice with the city. If it was with the county, you do it with the county. If it was with the legislature, you do it with the state. So it should, if you need to clarify that, but that's the intent. Thank you.
Understood, thank you. And thank you for the clarification on when you would actually sign that, is when you get elected to get sworn in, for instance, down here in Carson City, when you go down to the dais and sign. So, okay, thank you. So with that broadcast, anybody in support on the phones?
If you'd like to testify in support of SB 428, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, we have no callers on the phone at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will move to opposition, either here or in Carson, or here or in Las Vegas, excuse me. Seeing none, broadcast, anybody on the phone in opposition to SB 428?
Thank you. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody in neutral, either here or in Las Vegas? We have someone coming up in neutral. How exciting.
Good afternoon, Chair Daley and members of the Senate Leg Ops Committee. My name is Alex Ortiz. I'm here representing Clark County. I do want to say that I offered the lady next to me the chance to go first, and she said I can go first, so thank you for that. We're here neutral on this bill, and we do want to say, give our thanks to the sponsor, Chair Orenshaw, for allowing us to present this amendment to him and for agreeing to accept the amendment on our behalf for this bill. And so with that said, thank you for your time.
Afternoon, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. David Cherry, Government Affairs Manager for the City of Henderson. We too appreciate the bill sponsor bringing the amendment on behalf of Clark County. We believe that adds some important clarity to the proposed legislation. Also appreciated the comments from Senator Krasner. We did have some concern with the final language in the oath, but with the bill sponsor agreeing to continue to work on that, we'll continue to be in neutral based on the idea that he's a fine legislator and we'll be able to work it out. Thank you.
Amy Bergens, Douglas County Clerk Treasurer. Again, thank you for letting me come up here and speak. I'll just start by saying it was hard to determine whether or not I wanted to come up in support or neutral, because I do support the language of this bill. I like the idea. It's definitely going to be useful even at the county level with the multiple districts that we have. However, I have a couple of concerns that I just want to put on the record that I just came up with today. So I have not even emailed Senator Orenshaw, but I'm sure that he will be more than happy to work with us on these. I think my number one concern is that in Section 6, under 5A, it states that the proof of identity is a public record and may not be withheld from the public. However, I don't know if we're accounting for NRS 293.906, which is a confidentiality orders that are court-driven. A lot of our elected officials have those confidentiality orders, and therefore we would need to be able to redact information from those public records, the driver's license, such as the address on those. So I just want to make sure that that is being accounted for and that we have just had that discussion. And then also, it's the way that this is being presented almost sounds like the driver's license is used for us to confirm the residential address when we are doing a candidate filing. However, that is not correct. The driver's license is used for identity, not for residency. Residency can be, they can use a bill or their property tax bill or anything to prove residency. So I think that we need to even have maybe a little bit bigger of a conversation about the fact that the driver's license doesn't necessarily have to say where they reside. So maybe a little bit more of a conversation that needs to be had. So with that, I will just let Senator Orenshall know. He knows how to find me if the discussion needs to go further.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else here or in Las Vegas in neutral? Seeing none. Broadcast, anybody on the phone?
Thank you, sir. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll bring the sponsor back up for closing comments. And yeah, a little work, and just got to get it done quick.
Vice Chair, members of the committee, thank you for hearing Senate Bill 428. Very lucky to have great co-presenters like our school board trustee and our former assembly chair here. I think this bill is important because if an office holder no longer resides in the district in which they represent, they need to stop representing. They need to resign, and if not, then there needs to be that vacancy, and it needs to that seat needs to be filled. I'm happy to work with everybody that testified. I thank Senator Krasner. I thank the vice chair for some of the catches. I think there needs to be some clarifications, and got a little time here to get that fixed. So we'll work on that. Thank you for hearing the bill.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 428. We'll hand the gavel back to the chair. Thank you.
Either with that, I'd like to open the hearing on SJR 1. We were very lucky to have Senator Krasner here, and I want to thank all the co-presenters and supporters for their patience. We'd like to open the hearing on SJR 1. Thank you so much, Senator Krasner, for presenting.
Thank you, Chair Orenshall and honorable members of the Senate Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. It's an honor to be here today before you. I am Nevada State Senator Lisa Krasner, proudly representing State Senate District 16. Today, I will talk to you about SJR 1, Senate Joint Resolution 1, which urges Congress to support continuing military retirement pay for the surviving spouse of a deceased service member. SJR 1 urges the United States Congress to enact legislation allowing the surviving spouse of the United States military veteran to receive the service member's military retirement pay after his or her death. Some of the background information about this issue is, as SJR 1 states, military retirement pay ends with the death of the retiree. However, there is a specific program now called the Survivor Benefit Plan, or SBP. The SBP is where a veteran can enroll and pay or elect that some of his pay is taken out and reduced from his retirement, and it would allow his or her surviving spouse to receive a portion of the service member's retirement pay as an annuity. In exchange, the veteran receives, as I said, reduced retirement pay during their lifetime. The surviving spouse's annuity would be capped at a maximum of 55% of the deceased service member's monthly retirement pay for life. So what that means is the veteran sort of doesn't actually pay into it, but allows their retirement pay to be reduced so that when they die, their surviving spouse can receive that annuity, but it's capped at a maximum of 55% of the deceased service member's monthly retirement pay. Here are some statistics for the 2022-2023 fiscal year from the Department of Defense. There are over 30,000 military retirees living in Nevada. There are 3,700 surviving spouses in Nevada receiving this annuity under the SBP program currently. And nationally, the average base pay is $2,900 a month for the program, including both officers and enlisted personnel. A surviving spouse, again, would only receive up to 55% of that amount. So the max for the surviving spouse would be $1,600 a month. According to the Nonpartisan Congressional Research Service, only 69% of military retirees are signed up for the program. Congress is aware of the inadequacy of the benefit, and over the past several decades, Congress has considered whether the SBP program provides enough financial stability and resources for survivors. The system itself is somewhat complex, with some calculations based upon when a veteran enrolled in the program, base pay computations, and other federal death benefit programs. Various sessions of Congress have considered proposals to increase or remove the capped amount, the 55%, that the surviving spouse receives. They've also considered removing the service member's retirement pay offset, the amount that's taken out. They've also considered providing an automatic continuation of the retirement pay for the surviving spouse versus forcing the service member to pre-enroll in the SBP program upon retirement. This resolution, SJR 1, is designed to add our voice to those calling for a simplified system of providing the surviving spouse of a veteran with the service member's pension in an adequate amount and without the added complication of pre-enrolling in a plan. I'll leave you with a quote from former Congressman Carol Shea Porter. "I was a military spouse and I lived on military pay. It is very difficult to do that, but we do that with honor and with gratitude for the chance to serve this country." I have great respect for the active members of the United States military and our military veterans who keep our country safe and who keep all of us safe. Thank you, Chair Orenshaw and committee members, for allowing me to present SJR 1. The surviving spouse of a person who has served our country has already made an incredible sacrifice in their support role, and I hope that you will support Senate Joint Resolution 1. I am happy to answer any questions.
Krasner, thank you for presenting Senate Joint Resolution 1. And this legislation is so important to veterans in our state and across the country. And hopefully Congress will listen to this resolution. Members, any questions for Senator Krasner? Vice Chair Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I don't know if you can answer, maybe one of the gentlemen there behind you can. They might have more experience with it. But the spouse benefit plan, how old is that? How long has it been in place? My only frame of reference, and I don't know how the military works, is, but on the private side, on a defined benefit plan and various things, so if you have a pension similar to what they have, for the period of time that you were married, the spouse has a right to part of that. The default is a 50% benefit, but you can have a higher one. But the spouse is the one that has to say, no, I don't want to opt into it. And I don't know if that's the same under the military side of it, how long it's been in place. You said 69% of people have opted for it, which means 39 had an option, but they didn't take it, right? So I'm just trying to figure out if someone's made an option not to take it, and I understand. Same thing on the private side, though. If you do take it, there is an offset, there is a reduction, because you're paying out the same amount of money. It's an actuarial calculation, but you're gonna be paying it out for a longer period of time. Women live longer, so they make that actual calculation so that you pay the same amount of money over the period of time, at least what they anticipate people will live. So I know that was a lot, and I don't know if you have the answer to the question, but maybe one of the gentlemen might.
Thank you for your question, Senator Daley. May I go directly to him, Chair Orangeall?
Absolutely, Senator Krasner. Please
Okay,
feel free to go
Senator
direct.
Lisa Krasner, Senate District 16. I'm going to have to phone a friend, Senator Daley, because I don't know that answer. Maybe one of the gentlemen behind me does, who is a veteran.
And I tried looking up some of those questions as well, and it was unclear on how it worked, so.
If anyone would like to come forward, please come forward and state your name. Whoever would like to come forward, appreciate you being here. Thank you for your patience. Sorry the hour is so late. Please state your name for the record and proceed. Thank you very much, sir.
And I would say, I'm not gonna hold you to any of this. I'm just trying to get a feeling of where it is. I'm not, on.
Record, Lieutenant Colonel.
Turn your mic on.
For the record, Lieutenant Colonel John Strahan, U.S. Army, retired. That's S-T-R-A-H-A-N.
Thank you for joining us, Lieutenant Colonel Strahan. We appreciate your service to the military and our country, and thank you for helping discuss SGR 1. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Okay, so the first question is, how long has it been in service, I guess is a lack of a better term, or available to the service members? I would say I enlisted in 1975. It was an option then. The second question, I believe, had to do with spouses and their half of it.
Senator Daley, could you repeat the question?
Sure. So the first part, so it's been in existence for some period of time. So
Yes.
most people that are retired knew it was there and could have done whatever they were doing. Does the spouse have a right to that? For instance, on the private pension, me and my wife have been married 38 years coming up in May. And for 35 of those years we've been married, so she would have a right to part of my pension should I die. And if we don't take the spouse survival option, she has to sign off on that if we don't do it, right? So the option is there, and it's not my choice, it would be the spouse's choice. So I'm just trying to see if that's the same scenario.
When I retired in 2015, I was given the option to elect the survivor benefit plan or decline it. I elected it. Had I declined it, my spouse also had to sign a paper declining the survivor benefit plan.
Understood. So it does work very similar. The spouse gets the option, and then the couple together make a determination on whether they take it or not.
Correct. So if the service member says, no, I don't want it, the spouse has to concur with that and sign the document saying we decline to take the spouse survivor benefit.
But if the spouse says, no, I want it, then she gets it.
Yes.
So I would just want to make sure that was, because I'm trying to figure out if people have made these deals. So what we're trying to get with the resolution is then for maybe to take the cap off, increase the amount. Because the way I read it, and I'm not against it or anything like that, the way I read it is that, hey, we want Congress to give people the spouse survivor, even if they opted out of it. And I'm kind of going, they made a choice to opt out of it, they made a choice to opt out of it.
And I think, Senator, the decision to opt out is based on financial considerations of age at retirement, expected lifespan, and could I possibly invest that money into a private investment versus planning for the annuity to run its course.
And I understand, I did the same thing when I retired. I see a lot of the members through our private pension plan. I'm still a trustee on that, on the options that they're allowed to take, and some of them don't take the spouse survivor benefit. And once you don't take it, you're out. You don't get another bite at that apple. But the spouse has to agree, and it's the whole family on the planning. If the spouse dies first, then it still doesn't go back up. Some of them have a pop-up option. If the spouse dies or you get a divorce and you marry someone else, that spouse doesn't have an option. They're not going to get anything. So I was trying to get to, what are we really trying to get to with the option? Because it seems to me, if we're trying to raise it up to 100% or a higher level, or are we trying to say, hey, I opted out of it and I don't want to now, but I want you to pay me anyway? I don't know that we're actually trying to do that. That's what I was trying to get to. Is what question are we really asking for them to do? Because it seems to me if you opted out of it, you opted out of it, and you got to live with that.
May I answer, Senator Orenshaw?
Oh, yes, please, go and feel free to go
Senator
direct
Lisa
Senator Krasner.
Krasner, State Senate District 16, thank you. Senator Daly, thank you for your question. I understand it's a little bit confusing, so let me just back up a little bit and tell you even why I'm bringing this bill. Every year, the State of Nevada Department of Veterans Services has an annual symposium, one in Northern Nevada and one in Southern Nevada. And one of the veterans there said, actually it was a couple of veterans, one of them was a female veteran, one was a male veteran. They said that a lot of times there's a military spouse, let's say it's the husband, and then the wife, just for an example, but it could be either gender. And usually it's the veteran moves around a lot because they're deployed to different places, but they're the primary breadwinner. And then the spouse doesn't really have time to cultivate much of a career because they're moving around so much. So that spouse is reliant upon the pay of the service member. Now, when that service member dies, the spouse that remains has no source of income or very little. And hopefully they elected for this when both were alive, when the husband, or excuse me, the military member was alive. And so that surviving spouse would get at least this 55% of pay, which I think we said it was $1,600 a month max. And that was the concern, that the surviving spouse is in a bad position.
And I understand. And I would just reading again what it says. We urge Congress to enact legislation allowing the surviving spouse of the veteran to receive the military retirement pay of the veteran after the veteran's death, right? And to me, that's unclear based on the fact that some people they have the option and they're choosing not to take it. And this would seemingly say, even though you chose not to take it, we still want you to get it anyway, right? Which means that they didn't reduce the benefit that was paid on the actuarial calculations that they have to make in order to pay the pension. They wouldn't get, so the people that opt for it, and like you said, you took it, his is reduced a little bit. When he dies, his spouse is going to get that 55% based on that reduction. And to me, what this is asking for is to say, hey, we didn't take it, I got the higher amount, and I still want you to give even more because I didn't take it at a higher amount to someone who decided not to take it. And I'm just thinking that what we're asking for needs to be clearer, because I think it's unfair for his wife or him to take a reduction and get the deal, and we're going to urge Congress for her to continue to get the pay, which she is, or at least maybe we want to just raise the cap or do something, make it more equitable, something, versus a person who said, I didn't take it, didn't take the reduction, and now we want to say, hey, go ahead and give it to them anyway at a higher amount. I just don't see that as being equitable.
No, thanks for your comment, Vice Chair Daly. I'm sorry to jump in. I think actually, if I might defer to our legal counsel, Ms. Delogere, I think perhaps you might be able to comment on some of the concerns Vice Chair Daly brought up.
Kelsey Delogere, legal counsel. I would be happy to look into that and follow up with those questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Ms. Lozier. Thank you.
Chair Orenshaw,
Senator?
if I may speak.
Please go ahead.
Bailey, thank you for bringing that up. I'd be happy to work with you if you have some language that you might want to suggest that you think would clarify it. I would be happy to work with you, and I'd be happy to accept that as an amendment.
And thank you. I think we could probably, because like I say, I'm not in support of it. Maybe we just need to say, instead of urging Congress to give them the spouses, to, maybe bump up the match or whatever, or to alleviate or, reduce some of the things you said that they've talked about doing. So not having a reduction in the pay in order to get it. But I don't think we should, in fairness, ask for them, for families that decided not to take the option that says, oh, now I want to change my mind, and we should be asking Congress to give it to them anyway. But bumping up the amount, I think, is a reasonable thing to say we want to do. Not having a reduction in the pay, I think, is a reasonable thing to do. But saying someone should get the pension when they already made the option not to is, I don't think, fair to the people that did it the right way in the first place.
I'm going to chime in too. I'm thinking maybe if Congress did enact this, maybe then the military service members who were eligible to receive retirement and their spouse wouldn't have to make that choice. And maybe here then, if Congress just enacted a federal law that said that when someone retires from their military service, either after 20 years or medically, through medical eligibility, that then they'll receive their full pension till the end of their life, and then their spouse will also receive their full pension. I feel like we have something like that for retired members of the judiciary in Nevada. I don't know exactly how that works with spouses, but I mean, it could be that Congress could do that so that they don't have to, military members who serve 20 years and their spouses don't have to make that decision. So that's another option potentially. But, well, thank you very much. Members, any additional questions for our sponsor and for Lieutenant Colonel? No additional questions. Thank you so much for presenting the bill. I'd like to now open it up to support for SJR 1. Anyone who'd like to speak in support, please state your name for the record. Thanks everyone for your patience. I'll start here in Carson City and then I'll go down to Las Vegas.
Chair, Lieutenant Colonel John Strahan, U.S. Army retired, STRAHAN, representing myself and veterans across the state of Nevada. I had 5 points I'd like to make about this. It recognizes, back up, passing SJR 1, lending support to the possibility of Congress changing the law to allow the widow of a military retiree to continue receiving his pension, or her pension, their pension. It recognizes family sacrifices. Spouses of veterans play a crucial role in support during and after the service, often relocating frequently, pausing their own careers and not being able to build up their own retirement and financial stability. It also prevents a sudden financial hardship. If a couple is living solely on a military retirement pay and the pay ends abruptly, the veteran's death stops the pension unless they've enrolled in the survivor benefit plan that we just discussed. This sometimes obviously leaves the surviving spouses without any immediate financial support. It also promotes dignity and stability. Continuing the retirement benefits can provide a measure of financial stability and peace of mind in already difficult times. As a moral obligation, just as we promised to support our veterans, we owe continuing debt to the families. This resolution would urge Congress to fulfill that promise. One thing I would add, when we earlier discussion of the survivor benefit plan, yes, it's an optional annuity program that a service member and the spouse elect to enroll in or not enroll in or take the benefit of. I believe with the legislation changes pending in Congress would basically do away with that plan and just continue the retired pay to the surviving spouse until their death. And another note on the survivor benefit plan, yes, it's a deduction up to about $750 a month of your base retirement pay, with the 55% cap of the retiree's base pay. Something that we didn't discuss earlier. So if I pay into the survivor benefit plan for 10, 15, 20 years, and my spouse dies before me, that money does not come back to the service member. That money stays in whatever account that it's paid from. It can be held in abeyance in case the service member remarries, now at 70 years old, and tries to get somebody else enrolled on the survivor benefit plan. But basically, you pay this money as an insurance policy for your spouse. Your spouse precedes you in death. You don't get to say, hey, can I have my premiums back? You're not going to pay off the annuity. It ends at that point. So I just wanted to point that out. And thank you for your time and listening to this.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Strahan. Thank you for your testimony and for your service to our country. Whoever would like to go next, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Chair Orenshaw, Daly, and committee members. For the record, my name is Andrew Lee Pelbit, and I'm the state chairman for the United Veterans Legislative Council, representing the 250,000 veterans in our state and our Guard and our military and their families, which comes to about 500,000 Nevadans, a sizable portion of our population. We support this resolution entirely, and I think Colonel covered one of the key points. The retiree is actually funding this by a reduction in his retirement pay. This isn't he just signed up for it. They pay for it every year. And for how many years as he suggested? Our issue on this side is why we think this bill's vital is, yeah, you're probably all right. This would probably go away if we would take care of the spouses once the veteran dies and give them the same retirement pay. Many of these veterans that have served around the world with their husband or wife, the military member, have endured much of what they've endured. Yes, maybe they weren't being shot at directly like their spouse or bombs and rockets, but they've drugged their children around this planet. They have lived this event with the veteran. The problem is they don't have a serial number having served in the military, but they served every one of the years that their veteran spouse served before that individual retired. So this really is something we need to see happening. It needs to extend the benefits if the veteran dies, retiree dies before the spouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for your service. State your name for the record, sir, and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Darrell Brown, DARROLBROWN, United Veterans Legislative Council. As you can see by my hat, I've served in the U.S. Air Force. And just what a point that Andy made about spouses serving around the world. When I was married in the Air Force, they were taking money out of my check and giving it to her, whether she was living with me or not. I never could understand that because we lived together in Japan for 16 months and they took money out of my monthly check and gave it to her while we were living together. Now, when I was in Thailand, I can understand that, but anyway. Just personally, though, I'm a retired Nevada State employee. I'm a retired U.S. federal employee. I'm on 100% service-connected disabled veteran. So if she survives me, and I sleep every night with one eye open, then she will receive all or part of those benefits. So I find it very inconsistent. Since my father died in 1962 as a 100% service-connected veteran, my mother received his VA benefits for 37 years when she died in 2009. So I find it really highly inconsistent that a surviving spouse of a retired veteran wouldn't get the same benefit. I appreciate your points, Mr. Daly, about what's going on and how we do it. but I strongly support SDR 1, and I thank Senator Krasner for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your service. Whoever would like to go next, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Hello, thank you, committee members, very much for letting me speak. My name is Kathy Doyle, Kathy with a K, D-O-Y-L-E. I'm representing myself as an independent citizen from Washoe County. And I also want to thank Senator Lisa Krasner for bringing this bill forward. I support the bill. My father was in the Marine Corps. All my male cousins were in the Marine Corps. Everybody's retired now. And I can understand that the surviving spouses of many of these veterans, they spent their years supporting their spouse, again, sacrificing their own careers. I think every military personnel who has honorably served his or her country, whether in battle or behind a desk, and meets the requirements for retirement pay, should be able to pass this on to their surviving spouse, be it maybe raising the cap, however you tweak it. I think that the surviving spouse needs to have more benefits, especially in this day and age of this economy. So yes, I would please vote yes on SJR 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Good evening. Please state your name for the record and proceed, and then we'll go down to Las Vegas.
Good afternoon. My name is Lynn Chapman, and I'm a 50-year member of the American Legion Auxiliary. And of course, I am in favor of this bill. My father was a World War II vet, and after my mom passed away, my dad remarried a few years later to someone that my parents were friends with. And Ruth had a husband who was World War II, and he was a colonel when he retired. But he had passed away. And she really didn't receive a lot of money. She went with him with the 2 kids all around the world. And she worked at jobs once in a while when she could find a job in a foreign country and or different places around the U.S. But she couldn't work for long because then her husband would be sent somewhere else. So her Social Security wasn't really a very big check. You know, military makes such large checks anyway. So it was really difficult for her. And it was a blessing when my dad and Ruth got married. Then they could pool their money together. And it was just really a very hard time for her after her husband passed away. So this would be something that would be helpful for a spouse when their spouse passes away. They have to have something to live on, especially nowadays. It's very, very difficult. So please pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you, Deputy Washington. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair. Mark Volashin. I do have a job for the state, but I am here now testifying as an individual. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in October of '98, spent 20 years in the Corps, and after a few years was selected for a commissioning program where I met my wife, and she spent the next 14 years, the rest of my time in the military, kind of bouncing around countries and locations, raising our kids, that sort of thing. So first, I want to thank Senator Krasner for bringing this resolution forward. Thinking about it further, it explains why my wife is so adamant that we have healthy meals and that I exercise, that she's trying to keep me around longer than not. This survivor benefit program, we did consider when I got close to retirement. And my first day as a civilian after my 20-year career was January 1st of 2019. And we talked about the survivor benefit program and had to weigh, getting out of the military, buy suits and ties and other things, buy a house. My boys, all 3 of them are growing and do we basically take the money for them now or kind of pay it forward? We opted to pay it forward and are part of the survivor benefit program. But again, I think the message that this resolution sends is a very clear message of support and appreciation for the families, recognizing the kind of team sport nature of it all. Again, overall, while basically ditto to the other comments from the other individuals, but I encourage support of Senate Joint Resolution 1, again, as an individual. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony and for all the sacrifices you made to serve our country in the military. Thank you very much. I'd like to go down to Las Vegas. Thank you for your patience, sir. I know the hour's late. Thank you very much for sticking around.
Well, thank you, Chair Earnshaw and Vice Chair Daley and members of the Senate Legislative Operations and Elections Committee. I'm Fred Wagar, Fredwagar, and I represent the Nevada Department of Veterans of Foreign Wars and the Department of Disabled American Veterans with family members and families and members. That's about 30,000 Nevadans. And I am an Army retiree. I wanted to address a couple of things that came up early about the resolution and the language. Just to keep in mind, this resolution is for Congress. They're going to determine what this program is going to look like and what actions they're going to take. And so they'll include the start date and change in federal law, et cetera. And I'm assuming that if the spouse gets 100%, there would be more service members and more spouses taking the benefits, even if it's a choice. I'd like to thank Senator Krasner for bringing this Senate Joint Resolution 1 forward. As my wife did throughout my military career, these individuals make significant sacrifices, enduring long periods of separation, relocating frequently, and managing households single-handedly, all the while their loved ones, like me, served in perilous and demanding conditions. Upon the passing of a military veteran, their devoted spouses face financial insecurity due to limitations on the benefits they receive. Currently, military spouses, as noted before, only receive up to 55% of the veteran's benefits, and only if the veteran signed up for survivor benefit plan at the time of their military retirement. Awarding military spouses 100% of military veterans' benefits upon the veteran's death is a recognition of the spouse's invaluable contributions and sacrifices. It would ensure they can continue to live with dignity and security. Such a policy would provide assurance that the nation stands by them, even in their time of loss, honoring their commitment and resilience. It is both a moral and practical imperative to ensure that military spouses receive 100% of military veterans' benefits upon the veteran's death. The nation's gratitude should extend beyond the veteran and encompass the family that supports them, ensuring their well-being in every phase of life. In passing SJR 1, Nevada would be urging Congress to enact legislation allowing the surviving spouse of a veteran to receive the military retirement pay of the veteran after the veteran's death. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for your service, sir. Thanks for your patience. I know the hour's late. I don't see anyone else in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, can we go to the phone lines for support for SJR 1?
If you would like to testify in support of SJR 1, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Hello, this is Yolanda Kanak, YOLANDAKNAAK. Chair and committee, I'm recommending a yes vote on SJR 1. I actually am a daughter of a vet, and my dad passed away in 2009, and then my mother, she passed away in 2021, and I actually took care of her the last 4 years of her life, and they're both actually buried in the Southern Nevada Veterans Cemetery, and so I'm asking for a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
And the public line is open and working, and there are no other callers at this time.
Thank you. Anyone who's opposed to SJR 1 who wishes to be heard here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas? I don't see anyone coming forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who's in opposition to SJR 1 who wishes to be heard?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SJR 1, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. And there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition.
Thank you, Broadcasting. I'd like to now go to neutral. Anyone who's neutral on the measure wishes to be heard here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas? I'm not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone neutral on the phone lines who wishes to be heard on SJR 1?
The public line's open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Senator Krasner back up, make any closing comments. Thank you for presenting Senate Joint Resolution 1 today.
State Senator Lisa Krasner, representing Senate District 16. I would first like to say thank you, Senator Orenshaw, Chair Orenshaw, for giving me the opportunity to present this bill today. Thank you to members of the Legislative Operations and Elections Committee for listening. And a huge thank you to the veterans and service members that took time out of their day to come and testify and support, and all the members of the public that came and testified in support of SJR 1. I hope you'll vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Krasner. Thank you again to all the veterans who came out to testify. And again, sorry about the late hour. Thank you for your patience. With that, I'd like to close the hearing on Senate Joint Resolution 1, and I'd like to go to public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to make public comment, we are limiting public comment to 2 minutes per speaker here in Carson City or down at the Las Vegas Legislative Hearing Room. I don't see anyone coming forward, so now I'd like to go to the phone lines broadcasting. If there's anyone who wishes to make public comment, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much, broadcasting, and I want to thank all our staff. I know the hour's late. Thank you for sticking it out for our late hearing, and I want to remind members and staff, our next meeting Thursday, we are going to have pictures for our committee pictures at 3 o'clock here in the committee room. So we will take pictures, and I want to thank our policy analyst, Mr. Sturm, for reminding me, because I would have forgotten for sure. And we'll see everyone Thursday. With that, we are adjourned.